The call lasted 4 minutes and 12 seconds. Nadia knows because she checked. She was standing in her kitchen in the new city, boxes half-taped on the floor around her, phone pressed to her ear. And when her mother said selfish for the third time in 4 minutes, Nadia didn't fill the silence with an apology. She just waited. That was new. Greta has one word. One word she's been using for 38 years, like a key she cuts to fit every door. The door to Nadia leaving for university at 18. The door to Nadia not calling every Sunday. The door to Nadia getting engaged without asking for permission first. The door to Nadia, 2 months ago, accepting a promotion that required her to move cities. Selfish. Every time, without variation. Here's what makes that interesting. Nadia spent a long time assuming the word was descriptive, that it meant something specific, pointed at something real she had done wrong. She spent even longer trying to disprove it, calling more, visiting more, explaining herself more, shrinking her decisions down to sizes her mother could approve of. None of it worked, because the word was never about what Nadia did. You'll understand that better by the end. Nadia grew up in a small town in the Midwest, the kind of place where people track each other's business not out of cruelty, but out of proximity. 3 streets, 2 churches, 1 diner, and a shared sense that leaving was a comment on the place you left. Greta was a constant presence in that town, visible, respected. She ran the church auxiliary, organized the block association, knew everyone's children by name. She was also the kind of mother who needed to know everything. Not in the way of a parent genuinely worried about safety. In the way of someone for whom not knowing felt like exclusion, like being left out, like losing ground. Nadia was the eldest of 3. Her younger brothers, Patrick and Cal, learned early that the path of least resistance ran through Greta. You agree, you defer, you wait for the weather to change. Nadia didn't learn that. She was the one who asked why, who pushed back, who, at 12 years old, told her mother it wasn't fair that she had to share every detail of her friendships while her brothers were never asked. Greta's response, delivered with the calm certainty of someone who had never once doubted themselves. You are so selfish, Nadia. It's not always about you. Nadia was 12. She filed it away like a verdict. She heard it again when she applied to schools out of state. Again when she chose a major Greta hadn't suggested. Again when she got her first apartment and didn't ask her mother to help decorate it. Again when she started dating Marcus, now her husband, without introducing him to Greta first. Again when she told Greta she was in therapy. Again, with real heat behind it, when the therapist helped Nadia start setting limits. Limits, apparently, are the most selfish thing of all. The reason I'm telling you this story now is because of what Nadia found last spring. Before the new job, before the move, before that 4-minute phone call where she finally didn't apologize. She found it while going through her grandmother's things. Her mother's mother, Iris, who died in March at 89. She wasn't looking for it. That's the thing about the evidence that changes everything. It doesn't wait for you to go searching. In a box of letters from the 1970s, Nadia found a note, handwritten, addressed to Greta. Sent by Iris the year Greta left her own small town at 19 to get married and start a life somewhere new. The note was short, 2 paragraphs. It ended with 1 sentence. You have always been the most selfish girl I have ever known. Nadia read it twice. Then she sat on the floor of her grandmother's spare bedroom and stayed there for a long time. Because the handwriting was gentle, the tone was steady, and the word was identical.
Iris was not a cruel woman. Nadia wants to make that clear before anything else. She was quiet and practical, the kind of grandmother who showed love through cooking and remembered every birthday without being reminded. Nadia had loved her easily, without complication, which made the letter harder to sit with. Because the letter changed the shape of something. If Greta had been called selfish for leaving her hometown, for making her own life, for marrying the man she chose and moving somewhere new, if the word had come from Iris, aimed at a 19-year-old Greta who was doing nothing more than starting, then what exactly was the word measuring? Nadia folded the letter and put it in her coat pocket. She went back to sorting through her grandmother's things. She didn't tell anyone what she'd found. Not Marcus, not her brothers, not her therapist, yet. She just carried it. This is the part that matters, and I want you to hold it before we go any further. Greta was told she was selfish for leaving a small town at 19. She was told it by her own mother, in writing, with the calm authority of someone who believed they were right. And somewhere between that letter and 30 years of motherhood, Greta did not examine the word. She adopted it. She learned its shape, its delivery, its effectiveness, and she passed it on. Not out of malice, out of fluency. You speak the language you were taught, even when the language is a weapon, even when you can't see that it's a weapon, because you were also its target once. That doesn't make it okay. I'm not saying it makes it okay. I'm saying that understanding where something comes from is not the same as excusing it. Understanding is for Nadia. It's for the 38 years she spent trying to disprove a word that was never hers to disprove. Nadia met Marcus at 26 at a work conference in Cleveland. He was from a family where people disagreed openly and nobody called it selfish, where you could change your mind without it becoming evidence of your character. She didn't know that was different at first. She thought everyone's families were just different versions of the same thing. She learned. Marcus watched Nadia apologize for her opinions for 3 years before he said anything. What he said was quiet and careful, not a complaint, just a question. He asked her why she always added, "I might be wrong," to the end of statements that were factually correct. Why she would call Greta back within an hour of missing her call, but let her own friends wait days. Why she rehearsed how to word things before she told her own mother simple, ordinary news. Nadia didn't have an answer. She hadn't noticed she was doing it. If you've ever watched someone you love exist on a kind of low-level alert around one specific person, hyper-aware, self-editing, doing the math before every sentence, you know what Marcus was watching. It's exhausting from the outside. Imagine what it feels like from the inside. She started therapy at 31. Her therapist's name was Dr. Chen, and she was the first person who didn't suggest that Nadia was overcomplicating things, who didn't offer the gentle reframe of, "Maybe your mother means well," who instead asked a different question. "When you tell me what your mother said, how do you feel?" Not, "Was she right?" Not, "Did you provoke it?" Just, "How do you feel?" Nadia said she felt like she was permanently failing a test she'd never been given the questions to. Dr. Chen wrote something down. She didn't share what. If this story is sitting somewhere in your chest, if you know the specific weight of being called something so many times you stopped arguing, then I want you here with me for the rest of this. Subscribe so you're here when it breaks. I'll be right back. Nadia didn't confront her mother about the letter. Not immediately. She's not the confrontation type. Not because she's passive, but because she's a person who needs to understand something fully before she speaks. She sat with the letter for 6 weeks. In those 6 weeks, she did something she'd never done before. She made a list. Not for anyone else, not to prove a point or present as evidence in some future argument, just for herself. Every time she could remember hearing the word selfish from her mother's mouth, the age she was, the context, what she had done, she filled 2 pages. I want you to hear some of this list because I want you to see what the word covered. Nadia was 12 when she asked for privacy. Selfish. She was 17 when she didn't want her mother at a school event. Selfish. She was 18 when she applied to schools out of state. Selfish. She was 22 when she spent a holiday with a friend instead of coming home. Selfish. She was 26 when she told her mother she was dating someone and didn't offer his full biography immediately. Selfish. She was 29 when she declined to take on the role of family coordinator for her grandmother's care. She lived 4 hours away. Her brothers lived locally. Selfish. She was 31 when she started therapy. Selfish. She was 33 when she told her mother she didn't want advice about her marriage. Selfish. She was 36 when she stopped explaining why she couldn't always answer the phone. Selfish. 2 pages. Here is what every single item on that list has in common. Every one of them was Nadia asserting something. A limit, a preference, a choice, a life. None of them were acts of harm. Not one of them had a victim. The word selfish requires a self that is being disadvantaged. Someone has to lose something for someone else to be selfish. In Greta's usage, the only person who ever lost anything was Greta, and what she lost was control of the narrative, knowing the details, having her preferences centered. That's not selfishness in Nadia. That's just Nadia existing independently, which, to Greta, felt like the same thing. The promotion came in February. Senior director at a company she'd been building toward for 4 years. The role was in another city, not across the country, not even a full day's drive, but a city that was not Greta's city. Nadia told Marcus first. Marcus ordered dinner in, and they sat on the kitchen floor at 11 p.m., eating from containers and talking through every angle. Could they make it work? What about his job? What would they need to set up before they moved? What would it feel like 6 months in? They decided together, as a unit, the way adults in a partnership are supposed to make decisions. Then Nadia called her mother. She's not sure why she expected something different. She has therapy specifically so she can notice when she's carrying an expectation that Greta will surprise her. But she called anyway, because Greta was her mother, and because some part of Nadia, the 12-year-old maybe, still wanted to deliver good news and have it received as good news. Greta listened, asked which city, asked if Marcus wanted to go or if Nadia was making him, then said, "I think it's very selfish of you to uproot your whole life for a job and not think about what that does to the people who love you." The people who love you. Her brothers in the same state. Her friends she'd already told, who'd said congratulations. Marcus, sitting 2 feet away, who had just co-decided this with her. Nadia said, "Okay, Mom," and ended the call. Then she sat with the quiet for a minute, and she thought about the letter. What do you think Nadia did next? I want to know. Drop it in the comments. I'll be right back. She showed Marcus the letter that night. She'd been carrying it for 6 weeks, in her coat pocket and then in her desk drawer, and she hadn't told anyone. She brought it out after the phone call, unfolded it on the kitchen table, and waited while he read it. Marcus reads carefully. He takes his time. He went through it once, then again, then set it down with both hands flat on the table. This is from 1973. Yes, Nadia said. Your grandmother called your mother selfish for leaving home. Yes, for doing exactly what your mother is calling you selfish for doing. Nadia said yes again. She didn't have anything else to add. The letter had already said it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, "Does your mother know you found this?" No, she didn't. There is a particular kind of silence that comes when you've been shown the mechanism behind something, when the trick is explained and you can't unsee it. Marcus had that look, not vindicated, not angry, just sitting in the weight of understanding something fully. Because here's what the letter revealed, and I want you to sit with this slowly. Greta was 19 when she left her hometown. She was called selfish by her own mother for doing it. She built a life anyway, married, had children, stayed in a new city for 60 years. By every observable measure, leaving was the right call. And yet, she never let go of the word. She took it with her. She turned it over for 60 years, and somewhere in that process, it became hers to deploy. Not against herself. She'd made peace with her own choices long ago. Against the people who did what she did. Against the people who left and chose and prioritized themselves and moved through the world on their own terms. Against Nadia. Here is what I keep coming back to. Greta doesn't hate Nadia. This is not a story about a mother who didn't love her daughter. The love is real and it's complicated, and it's been there the whole time. But love and control can occupy the same body. A person can love you deeply and still need you to stay small, to stay close, to stay accountable to them, because your independence reads to them as abandonment. Because somewhere, in a part of themselves they've never examined, they learned that leaving is the worst thing a person can do. Greta left, and her mother punished her with a word. So Greta stayed, not physically, but emotionally. She became the person who makes sure no one in her orbit leaves without naming it first, without marking it, without hearing the word. She's been running the same response pattern for 60 years. Nadia is not the first person to hear it. 2 weeks before the promotion call, Greta had told Nadia's youngest brother, Cal, that he was being selfish for spending a holiday with his wife's family instead of hers. Cal had rolled his eyes and moved on. He doesn't carry words the way Nadia does. But Nadia carries things. She always has. She turns them over and lives inside them, and examines them from every angle before she puts them down. It's what makes her good at her job, and honest in her relationships, and occasionally exhausting to herself. It's also what made her make the list, and find the pattern, and understand, finally, what she'd been trying to disprove for 38 years. She called Dr. Chen the next morning. Not an emergency, just a session moved up. She brought the letter, the list, and the phone call, and laid them all out in order. Dr. Chen listened, set down her pen. Then she said the thing Nadia had not let herself say yet. "You are never going to win that argument," Dr. Chen said. Because it was never an argument, it was a verdict. And verdicts don't respond to evidence, they respond to power. Nadia heard that and felt something shift. Not break, not collapse. Shift. Like something that had been held in the wrong position for a very long time, finally moved an inch toward where it was supposed to be. She had been presenting evidence against the word for 38 years. The proof that she wasn't selfish. I called, I visited, I explained, I stayed, I compromised. And the verdict kept standing. Because verdicts don't need evidence, they need authority. And Greta had always been the authority. Here is where things changed. Not in a dramatic scene, Nadia is not a person who does dramatic scenes. She changed on a Tuesday morning in a therapy office when she stopped trying to answer the question, "Am I selfish?" and started asking a different one. What would happen if I just let her say it? She moved cities in April. Her and Marcus, 2 cars, a moving truck, and a 6-hour drive. They got keys to an apartment with more light than their last one, in a neighborhood where Nadia didn't know anyone yet, and found that absence of familiarity oddly wonderful. Greta did not help with the move. She was not asked. She called the week after, when they were unpacking. Nadia answered, not because she felt she had to, but because she chose to. That part was new, the choosing. The call was fine, surface level, brief. Greta asked about the apartment. Nadia said it was good. There was a pause that used to pull apologies out of Nadia and no longer did. Before she hung up, Greta said, "I just hope you're not doing all of this for a job, Nadia. I hope you know what's actually important." Nadia said, "I do, Mom. Take care," and ended the call. 4 minutes and 12 seconds, she checked. Patrick called the next day. Her middle brother, quieter than Cal, more attuned to the family's undercurrents. He'd heard about the promotion. He said congratulations. He also said, carefully, that their mother had called him twice that week, and both times had brought up Nadia's move. Nadia asked what she said. Patrick hesitated. Then, "She said you've always had this thing where you put yourself first, that she never knew how to reach you." Never knew how to reach her. Nadia thought about that. The calls she returned within hours, the visits she made for 38 years, driving or flying home with her whole body braced for how it would feel. The therapist she started seeing, specifically because she wanted to understand herself better, her patterns, her reactions, her part in things. The list she made and sat with for weeks. She thought about the letter. 19-year-old Greta leaving home, being told she'd always put herself first. And she thought, Greta never got her own letter. She never found evidence that someone examined the verdict before they handed it down. Nobody sat Greta down in a room and said, "Before you call her selfish, tell me specifically what you lost. Tell me who was harmed. Give me the cost." Greta had carried the word without ever cross-examining it, and now it was in every room of Nadia's past. But Nadia had cross-examined it. She had the list. She had the letter. She had 38 years of context, and a therapist who asked good questions, and a husband who read things carefully, and a Tuesday morning when she stopped answering a verdict and started asking who gave Greta the authority to issue one. Nobody did. Nobody gave her mother more authority over Nadia's character than Nadia gave her. And Nadia, slowly, imperfectly, in a new apartment with better light, was taking that back. Not by confronting Greta, not by sending a letter of her own, by simply choosing to stop receiving the verdict as binding. That is not a clean ending. I want to be honest about that. Greta still calls. She still sometimes uses the word. Nadia still sometimes feels the old reflex, the pull to justify, explain, apologize. It doesn't disappear because you understand it. Understanding is not a cure. But Nadia stopped being surprised by it, and she stopped measuring herself against it, which, for 38 years, is more than she'd managed before. There's a line Dr. Chen said at the end of their next session that Nadia texted to Marcus from the parking lot. A word only has power as a verdict if you keep showing up to court. Nadia stopped showing up. Not to her mother, they still talk. Greta called last week about something unrelated, a neighbor's news, a recipe she'd made. Normal conversation. The word didn't come up. It doesn't always come up.
That's part of what makes this hard to explain to people who haven't lived it. It's not relentless. It's periodic, pointed, reserved for moments when Nadia asserts something, and Greta registers the assertion as a loss. But Nadia stopped showing up to the verdict, to the mental courtroom where she'd been arguing her case, submitting evidence, waiting for a ruling that was never going to change. And in the space where that courtroom used to be, something quieter settled in. Not peace, not exactly. She's not there yet. Maybe she never will be, completely. But something like relief. Let me tell you what happened with the letter. She asked her Aunt Phyllis, her mother's younger sister, about it. Phyllis is 72, lives in Arizona, sends birthday cards that always arrive 2 days late. Nadia called her and asked, carefully, what she remembered about Greta leaving home. Phyllis went quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Your grandmother was hard on her. She never thought Greta should leave, said it was selfish, said she was abandoning the family." "Did Greta know that was unfair?" Nadia asked. Long pause. Then, "I think your mother spent her whole life trying to prove it wasn't true about her. The problem is, she had to make it true about someone else to do it." Nadia didn't say anything. She thanked Phyllis and finished the call and sat with that for a while. Because Phyllis had just given her the last piece. Greta was handed a verdict at 19. Selfish. And she spent 60 years in a complicated relationship with that word. Unable to accept it about herself, unable to release it entirely, unable to examine it without unraveling something she'd built her sense of self around. So she redirected it, outward, onto the person in her life who most reminded her of herself, onto Nadia, who also left, who also chose, who also moved through the world on her own terms and came back only when she wanted to, not because she had to. Nadia is the most like Greta of all her children. Patrick told her that once, and she'd bristled. She doesn't bristle now. It's probably true. They're both precise and stubborn and committed to their own version of how things should be. The difference is that Nadia knows where the word came from. Greta never found her letter. And I don't know what Greta would have done with it if she had. Maybe nothing. Maybe the word had been hers too long to put down. Maybe understanding something and changing because of it are two different decisions, and not everyone makes both. What I know is what Nadia decided. She decided to be the last person in her line who carries that word as a verdict. Her mother had one. Her grandmother had one. Nadia has read it, understood it, and set it down. She's not writing her own. If this story found you somewhere you recognize, if you know the specific weight of a word that was yours before you were old enough to contest it, I hope you heard something useful in this. Not that it's simple, not that understanding fixes it, but that the verdict was never binding. It was just delivered with enough confidence that it felt like law. It wasn't law. It was someone else's unfinished business. An unfinished business belongs to the person who left it unfinished, not to you. For the comments, what's the word in your family? The one that gets pulled out whenever someone steps out of line. Because I think it's rarely the word it claims to be. Tell me what it is. Tell me when you first heard it. I read everything. And if there's a story in your life right now that you've been trying to make sense of, a relationship that doesn't add up, a pattern you keep circling, the next episode might be the one that names it. Something is coming that I think is going to hit close to home. I'm Dee, and this is Fur by Firelight. I'll see you in the next one.